Frederica, Serenella, and the others help the Roselle break out of the source and flee Hyzant by ship. Behind them, the harbor is engulfed in violet flames when the Elfric explodes, destroying the remaining vessels and any chance the Hyzantians had at pursuing them. They sail down the Nozelia River, heading for the Great Falls deep in the Folk's domain. From there, they will journey south in search of the Roselle's ancestral homeland, Centralia.
Final chapter, Blessed Freedom.
Minister Erador, the Roselle have revolted.
I am aware. I hear they destroyed the statue of the goddess.
How's Wolfort's doing? They've stolen a ship and fled the capital. Minister Exham is embroiled in battle with the S. Frosty near the Glenbrook border. I cannot reach either Minister Lila or Minister Camsell. There's nothing we can do to...
I shall go after them. The Wolforts and the Roselle have made a mockery of our goddess. Such blasphemy cannot go unpunished.
But we've no ships, and you'll never catch them if you go over land.
Perhaps not with an ordinary horse. But they will not escape. They are about to witness the true might of the goddess.
Well, that's a way to start off an episode. Hi, Erador, how you doing? How in the hell did he get here so fast? What in the world? Did he just, like, teleport across Nozelia? Like, imagine how many miles this is on a map scale, and he came here in the time that we took to just go by ship all the way from Hyzant all the way beyond Glenbrook's Whitehome Castle and to the Great Falls. What in the world? What in the actual world is going on? All I know is that a final battle is upon us because this is the final chapter, so this means we are probably going to be facing the final boss very, very soon. But before that, I would like to do our character story with Maxwell. Let's bring some wholesomeness before we deal with Erador's crazy plan that he probably has up his sleeve. The unmasked Maxwell treads a new path and speaks with Huette of his past.
That you would return to us hale and whole. 'Tis a much-needed fortune in these trying times.
With luck, soon my return will not be the only cause for celebration. I am glad to see you unharmed, Huette. I would choose none but you to stand by Prince Roland's side in my absence.
Thank you. However, I am afraid I have far to go before I can measure up to your legend. A legend that seems to have begun a new chapter, now that you have doffed that mask of yours. Forgive me for prying, but I must ask, why did you wear it for so long?
Truth be told, I have not thought upon those reasons for some time. When I served Glenbrook as its Master of Swords, I did not wear it.
You were Master of Swords? The Dawn Spear?
Indeed. My star was rising, and I was tasked with investigating a group of nobles who were dealing in stolen works of art. A simple assignment, or so I thought. I was yet young and unaware of the pettiness of those who consider themselves to be our betters. I apprehended several of the criminals, but one escaped. That was my grave mistake. In shadows, they harbored their grudges until they exacted their revenge. But the life they took was not mine. It was my love's, the woman to whom I had promised my future.
What? I never knew.
The villain was eventually brought to justice, but no sentence could bring back what had been stolen from me. Had I only been more thorough, and not been so naive, then she would still be.
Sir Maxwell, there is no way you could have known. The blame falls not on you.
Nay, my inexperience sowed the seeds, and I will reap their bitter fruit until the day I die. I swore I would never again allow someone I loved to come to harm. To ensure that, I had to discard who I was. I gave up my title as Master of Swords, hid my true face behind a mask. I spoke only with my spear.
And you were reborn as Glenbrook's fiercest warrior, the Dawn Spear. Your feat surpassed the imagination of even the most silver-tongued of bards. Forgive me. I still tend to get lost in the stories, even though you are standing here before me.
No, I should thank you. There are few who would understand my struggles, but I believe you are one. House Wolfort has seen its share of misfortunes. That you all still walk with your heads held high is an inspiration to all. I was brought back from the brink of death to fight by your side, to face the dangers ahead undaunted and unhidden. I may owe fate for my return, but I shall fight tooth and nail before it takes aught from me again. At least such are the things I tell myself in my quiet moments. I only pray the words can give me strength when it matters most.
They will. No doubt you are stronger now than you have ever been.
Thank you. I no longer need to hide in fear. I will not look away.
Talk about super ultra mega wholesomeness there at the end, but at the same time, it's really difficult when, you know, especially when like I make, you know, when I make a mistake, it feels like you just want the ground to crack open beneath you and swallow you, and you know, or if something embarrassing happens, you don't want to deal with those people's sometimes judgmental eyes, you know what I mean? And the ways that they look at you. You just want to disappear for a second. I mean, and for his, it was just that, but on a much grander scale. I had to say that, you know, in general, I feel so bad that, you know, the love of his life was taken from him as a way of, and I don't think, I agree with you, Ed, I don't think that he should keep, you know, that blame and guilt on himself. There's no way to foresee what people are going to do. And he blames the fact that he was young and unaware, which, you know, which I can understand, but at the same time, how can any human be able to predict the future? You just can't do it. The only thing that's 20/20 in this world is hindsight. That's it. You know, you can only see the things in the past. You know, and not the things that are coming forward. However, you know, Huet just giving him that speech, you know, it was just so therapeutic and inspirational. There was a lot of very powerful messages in what Maxwell said. You know, that we keep our heads held high despite all the struggles that House Wolfort has been through. It's very true. You know, sometimes it feels like that I just wanted to cry my eyes out and say, why did I make that choice, or why did I have to take them down? I mean, that's just the way that the game is scripted, and that's the choices that I've made, and those are the repercussions and benefits that followed. So, all we can do now is look forward to this final battle. However, we're going to spend this episode going to do some pretty, you know, simple preparations for our battle. It looks like Exham has been marching on Esfrost now, which is very interesting. I do wonder what is going to come of Gusudolf, to be honest. I don't know if Exham and Gusudolf will both fall. I want to know the results of this conflict right here. But anyway, before we obviously get to that, we're going to have to do our own preparations. Because we're dealing with our own issues right now. We have, you know, just Minister Erador decided to take up arms against us. You know how it is. Alright, so, it doesn't look like that he has any more, Medals of Valor, that are available, but we do have, one more promotion that we are able to do before we get to the last chapter. Now, there's a lot of possibilities here. One of my ones is definitely, Miss Milo right here, to become the Master Dancer. She has been one of the most essential units for me. Not only have I fallen in love with her, you know, platonically, but I have fallen in love with her as a unit, as a person. You know, her past speaks volumes to me. And we are, like, so close. And, you know, that almost 60 evade that she's going to be having, I mean, she is the dodging queen, of course. And I can definitely see this. Apparently she gets a new debuff skill called Stardust, which I don't know what that's going to do. So she is a definite possibility on promotion. A second option that I have thought about for promotion is a unit that I haven't necessarily deployed a whole lot, but I feel like that her promotion in particular would be really, really good, considering I literally can't use her skill without it. Izana. Izana has been, from that last battle, she was essential for that match. And she also will get this skill called the Rite of Luck. Raise the luck of all allies for 3 turns, which is pretty cool. And that will also give her a skill that she's going to be able to use without, without a turn that she can't cast. She can still support the army, from the back lines, which is really, really good. But as much as I like the Rite of Thunderstorms idea, I don't know if it's in my best interest to do that. When I don't know who I'm going to be up against necessarily. When a unit like Milo might be able to use that Stardust skill quite a lot more often, considering that she can steal TP. So, but she is still a second option because I have talked about the idea that I would love to be able to promote her. But I don't know yet what I want to do. The third option for promotion would be a unit that has been with me since the very beginning, to be honest, and I think that it would be very story-driven to do it, and that is Roland. Even though that Roland for the past several maps has not been deployed, doesn't necessarily mean that I see him as a bad unit necessarily. He still very much so carries his weight and then some. He definitely, when you deploy him on an army, he can take the front lines pretty well. You know, as long as you give him the proper defensive and tanking abilities, you know, raising his defenses, making sure to keep him healed, you know, all of that. But what you can apply to Roland being on the front lines to keep him healed and buffed up is the same that you could apply to any unit on the front lines. So, but just the factor that he's been with us since the beginning, it would feel right. He also gets this skill called Spring in Your Step, which increases your movement by 1 when it's clear weather. But regardless, I think that out of everybody, despite the factor that Izana won't be able to cast her final skill, I may not even end up deploying her for the final map, potentially. I don't know what is to come of that last fight, but out of everyone, Milo absolutely deserves this promotion. This Medal of Valor is meant to be to my units who I think have been the kings and queens of my army. Not to say that nobody else is. I mean, obviously, Serenella, Frederica, Gila, Huet, and Erador have been some of my favorite units. Some of them from the very beginning. Some of them, like Huet, I have seen their utility towards the mid-game. And all of a sudden, I was just promoting her like crazy because I was like, who doesn't want an elite flyer? But Milo, you absolutely deserve this. You are the absolute woman of the battlefield. What a unit. You absolutely deserve this promotion. Become my master dancer.
Look how far I've come.
And look how far you will keep going. If that's the continuation of that quote. Because there is no stopping Miss Milo. Oh my gosh. Yes, you can steal any show. Next time we're alone, I'll treat you to an extra special routine. Oh, I love her so much. Oh, what a unit. What an absolute woman. Alright, so it doesn't look like that we have any more materials that we're able to really work with here. So that is kind of crazy. But all in all, what I would like to do for a slight portion of this episode, you know, because I won't be deploying everybody for the final battle. You know, 99.8% likely that that's going to be a case. I would like to go over all the units that have been in my army for a long time. I just want to give my reviews as to what I've been thinking of them and everything. Starting with Serenella. Serenella, I can't even, like, where to even begin with this guy. First of all, I mean, he is the main Lord of House Wolford, of course, and obviously, you know, after receiving the news that he is actually Ragna's birth son on this route, but not by the same mother, is very interesting, but he still led House Wolford with such drive and inspiration behind it. Such a great unit, and battle too, of course. I mean, I love the combo between the critical necklace and the red anklet for him. It just allows him to deal so much damage. It's freaking incredible. There's nothing else to say besides the factor that he is a critting machine, and I mean, I love all of the different abilities that he has. He can do countering, he can do delaying, which is controlling enemies. He has Hawk Dive for range, Sweeping Slash for range, and of course, you know, Shielding Stance just to protect those squishier units around him. Such a vital unit. Every single turn there is something to do with Serenella, and that is fantastic. Roland, I haven't agreed with everything that he's done up to this point in the game so far. Obviously, I think that he has a lot of ambition to protect the people, and value them more than anything. But the only problem is that sometimes that can take away from looking to yourself as well, because he matters too. I appreciate the fact that he looks to other people, but, you know, looking to yourself too is just as important. He's a human too. He's got the same blood that runs through his veins that everybody else does. So, you know, he's got a heart of gold. And at the end of the day, he may not have been deployed to every battle, but for the battles that he was deployed for in this route, he has just been flawless. So yeah, thanks to you, Roland. All the good vibes with you for sure. Frederica S. Frost. My gosh. Oh my Atlanta. This is such a character. The amount of development and dynamic character traits that she has gone through has been immense compared to so many other characters. Just the factor that her relationship with Serenella has just been so beautiful. I mean, it is the story of true love. I mean, this is exactly what love looks like. It is between those two. It's just so cute, so powerful. You know, it's just like, oh my goodness. In terms of her utility in battle, oh my gosh, she's such a powerhouse on the battlefield. There is no stopping this woman out there on the battlefield. Sunfall, once I unlock that, I mean, come on. A 6-range fire spell that can easily deal over 200 damage to something that they're not even weak to fire? Yeah, that's a powerful unit right there. I mean, so just in terms of character and everything, gosh, I have loved her. Speaking of loving, Sheila Breeze has been, I mean, vital. You all know that seeing me deploy Gila to every single solitary map in this game can show me how much I love her. First of all, I mean, for any RPG, you want to have a steady healer that can take some hits if they absolutely need to. Having healers that cannot take a hit really sucks, because sometimes they can't be even in the mid lines to heal people, because if they go for them, they're gonna fall real quick. The factor that Gila, it just has respectable defense, it's not extremely high, but it's not extremely low either, has made it so that she has a way of being able to tank hits without having to fall very quickly. She's obviously very susceptible to follow-up attacks, but in terms of her character, she has been like the mother of all of the army. She is the person that you would go to for advice and her wisdom, you know, and everything like that. And she's just so wholesome, and her story is so empowering. The factor that she left Hyzant to go to Esfrost, and that's what fated her to meet Frederica and get to this point between them, and their bond has increased so much throughout this game. It's such a beautiful, poetic duo between these two. She's great. There's nothing else for me to say there. Huette, I would like to say some things about her. At the very beginning, I have played other RPGs where flyers are weak to arrows, and a lot of times they take substantially more damage to bows than what triangle strategy would make them weak to bows. Obviously they are weak to it, but the damage multipliers aren't nearly as high. I used to be so scared to deploy her to a map that even had one archer on it, because I was like, what if the archer just goes for Huette? Why wouldn't they? Because she has Hawksbane. I mean, come on, man. She doesn't like she shoots arrows, but she doesn't like arrows being shot at her. But at the same time, over the course of all this time, my gosh, has she been such a utility unit. Just the factor that you can put her up on like a house or a pillar or something like that where enemies can't reach her, but she is more than capable to stay on these higher elevations and be able to attack people from down below. Amazing. I mean, there's no better utility than a unit that can fly. I mean, that's what I eventually saw her more as. Not a unit that was weak to arrows, but as a unit that can fly. The beauty of that is just awesome. Julio. Okay, so Julio is once again has a very similar take to how I took Huette. Julio at the very beginning, having a moment of truth was a skill that I thought to myself, this is definitely going to be one of his best skills, because these other skills, you know, they help, but not as much as what I would think. But eventually, I think what changed me for Julio throughout the course of the competition, throughout the course of the game, throughout the course of the game, I think that Julio was more meant to be a unit that would stay as a capable attacker who could then go behind other units that were enemies and then be able to follow up attack with them, since his strength is pretty admirable, to be honest. You know, his story background, you know, that he used to serve Patriot, and Patriot was just being a crappy person to work under. It was not great for him, and, you know, it's been an honor to have him on the team. I mean, every single time that he's been deployed, he has allowed my mages to continue casting, which just allows you to gain so much additional force on the battlefield. Yeah, you already know what I'm gonna say about this unit. Milo! Okay, she's everything that I would want in a unit. She is absolutely everything. She's very, very resilient to damage. She has evasion for days. And she's absolutely gorgeous. Not to mention that when she goes on the battlefield, this moon jump skill is absolutely overpowered, and I am loving it. She is able to do so much every turn. There is always something to do with Milo every single turn. You can use her for follow-up attacking, you can sap TP for mages to keep them from casting, you can poison enemies that have a lot of health, you can tempt them into working for you, so now you don't even have to deal with them, and all being able to utilize this through Moon Jump is so good, because it basically allows her to have, like, basically up to 10 movement every single turn. there is nothing else to say. I mean, her story relates to me personally throughout all the choices I've made, you know, and just through how she felt controlled by Hyzant. I'm not gonna go into that whole spiel again. I just have to say that in general, she is such a wonderful character, and it's been, and I was so happy to have been able to recruit her. She is the hero of this army for sure. She came in, took this army by storm, and she can solo armies by the power of attraction, man. Medina, oh my gosh, this wonderful lady right here has been a wonderful support vessel for the army. Being able to have ranged healing abilities and make them more potent in terms of their amount of healing, and granting additional TP eventually to those units. Oh my goodness, she has just been. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I know that I'm saying this to every single unit because every single unit in this game is built so creatively, and it's awesome. But I have to say that in general, I know that having a unit like her that's not as seen on the battlefield, but having a unit that can definitely just be there to support the front lines from the back lines makes Gila not have to do all the work all the time. But another thing that Medina's good at is that when she doesn't have anything to do in terms of healing, she can have increased range on stat buffing items. And that is honestly what allowed me to get through so many battles in terms of like, you know, boosting up my attack and defense to deal with Aurora, you know, and all that other kind of stuff. That first time around that I fought her, she was one of the reasons that my units survived a lot of the time, was these defensive boosts that I was getting from her ranged, you know, spices that she could throw across the battlefield. So, and just being able to potentially use 2 of them in a turn is amazing. If you're put behind and Medina has to heal 2 people, she can do it. Izana. Okay, so Izana's story is quite tragic, and I'm really happy that she found the love of her life, that he was still alive, and she definitely, you know, she definitely felt like that she was going to lose the love of her life. She felt like she lost everything, and the factor that a lot of those things, instead of having remorse and anger towards society for that, she turned it into finding a way to help others, and that fire never died. It never burned out, and it's so inspirational that you can go through so much suffering and still see positivity and help other people. That's so inspirational. You know, in the maps that she's been deployed, wonderful freaking unit. The Rite of Lightning just made her deal so much damage. It was actually very close, if not more, than the damage that Frederica was capable of dealing. And that's when you know you're pretty good at casting magic. So, anyway, let's move on. Piccolida. So, Piccolida has... I love Piccolida so much. I mean, she hasn't been deployed too often. She's so adorable. And of course, you know, you're already going to get, you know, added bonus points from me for having a weapon that has the same name as a cat. Yes, please. But at the same time, you know, I mean, her utility in battle is good. The decoy, being able to sap away enemy attention, has always been really good. And the debuffing items and the elemental stones that she's able to throw around to deal damage. I remember the battle against Booker. Oh my gosh, she was MVP. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, I mean, she's good. I mean, definitely not one of the absolute best that I've seen, but during the battles that she was having, she was great. Anna. So Anna's been here since the very beginning, right? Anna's been with me since the very start, pretty much, and I have come to love her. You know, just the factor that she's one of these units that just goes around and is just excessively annoying, causing status problems like poison and sleep, being able to ninja jump around, turning invisible, you know, and also she is a kudos machine, because being able to attack from like high ground like twice and you know, use the knife twice to attack people, or the dagger, I should say, having act twice is really good for spamming kudos. If you have, you know, if you're on a higher elevation than your opponent, you're going to get kudos for that. If you back attack them, follow up attack them, you know, stuff like that. Anna can just deal so much damage, especially with a dual striking partner. So good. She's just been very efficient to take the front lines, disappear, so that way she doesn't take enemy fire, and then she just goes where she needs to. She's on a mission all the time. Alright, so as for Erador, oh my goodness. I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody that I made him a Master Guardian if it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't one of my favorite units of all time. Erador is what I would want a lot of armored units to be like when it comes to RPG games. Because in normal circumstances, you want your knights on the front on the front lines. You want them you want them to be able to tank attacks for you, and it's kind of hard to do that when armored units generally have lower movement. Now, of course, he only has 4 move. Not fantastic, but at the same time, sprint is one of the best skills I have ever seen on a unit that is meant to be a physical wall of a unit. Because of the factor that you can increase his movement, it keeps him running towards the front lines, or if you need him to get over to another section of the map that's nearby, he can get to it quicker by utilizing sprint. And having steal back is so good, because you can put him into a huge army of units, and even if they back attack him, he's going to be extremely resilient to back attacks. Oh my gosh. And don't even get me started, like, all these skills are very, very good, okay? Don't get me wrong, like, having damage when you're below half health, being able to always counter, you know, adjacent attacking units. Ramfo sent archers off the frickin' Whiteholm Bridge, and I just destroyed a guy, frickin' sent him into the water, never to be seen again. If you guys remember that from Chapter 6, that was a funny moment. However, this first skill is elite tier. The factor that Erador has this skill has been, I mean, it's saved me in multiple maps. Multiple maps. I mean, just because of the factor that Provoke allows me to potentially infuriate multiple units to just allow Erador to draw even more aggro, but this time it's actually, like, forced because they're in Fury mode. It is so good. Erador has been one of my most favorite units in this whole game so far. I know that I haven't deployed him for the past couple of maps, against both Camcel and, against Camcel, but against Lila, he was the reason that a lot of that battle went the way it did. I don't know if I wanted to deal with those archers and those healers that were coming in, and that was the exact reason, at least one of them, that I beat Lila, so, without anyone falling, too. So, Erador, A+ unit. I love him. Okay, so as for Corinthian, now, Corinthian was a unit that when he first came out, he was pretty good, because most of the other mages on my team, which consisted of Narve eventually, I already had Frederica, so Corinthian didn't have a whole lot of mages that he had to compare himself to. Once Narve came in and already had access to ice magic, but his magic stat was higher than Corinthian's at the time, Corinthian actually ended up kind of taking a little bit of a back seat for a while, because at that point, Frederica had just taken so much aggressive power into all of her skills that she just outshined Corinthian. And then Izana came in, and she was like, let me show you some lightning magic where I can deal almost as much damage, if not more, than Frederica. Corinthian kind of hit the back burner for me for a time. And to be honest with you, I like the Wall of Ice skill. I like it. I just wish that it lasted a little bit longer. You know, just because of the factor that it kind of fades out by the end of his next turn, I would like it if the enemies were to have to actually destroy the Wall of Ice. Just because ice tiles already are on the ground for the entire rest of the game, unless you overwrite them with fire magic, where they then become puddle tiles. But Wall of Ice in general, I would think, would be under a similar playing field where it is on icy tiles. If they are on icy tiles, why wouldn't they be able to just not be able to break unless the enemy broke them? That would be really, really good. Now, maybe that would be arguably pretty overpowered at that point, but that's up to, you know, people's perspective. One of my favorite skills on him so far, because I really haven't used Icy Tomb a lot, I like this skill, but Frosty Fetters already does more than this skill, and it costs more TP, and Icy Tomb also can only deal damage to any unit that's standing on an icy square. He's already absorbing so much TP from Icy Breath, Frosty Fetters, and Wall of Ice that Icy Tomb just doesn't get used a lot. Why use this skill when you can deal more damage with Frosty Fetters regardless? Because this thing's power is 197, this one has 218, so it's already dealing a little bit more. So, in general, I have used this skill before in, like, mock battles just to kind of see what happens with it. Found out it's not one of my favorite skills. Shield of Ice is good, just giving invincibility to a unit, but again, it's so expensive. I would rather be dealing damage with Corinthian on his turns than supporting somebody else when you're not really sure all the time which unit people are going to go for. And I don't want to feel like that I'm wasting it. So, Shield of Ice is good, but I think that in general, the best skill on him so far has been Frosty Fetters by far. But once he came to the Phallus and Erica battle, all of a sudden I saw his use in so many more ways than I'd ever seen before. And that's why all of a sudden I promoted him so much, made him into a tier 3 weapon user, as well as giving him his skill Glacial Moon. I haven't used that skill yet on recording, and I feel bad if I get through the final battle and I don't deploy Corinthian. I'm going to be sad if I can't use Glacial Moon to have it showcased on the channel for everyone, but at the same time, you know, I mean, he's a good unit, but I think that unfortunately units like Frederica and Izana just ended up kind of outclassing him in terms of their magic output. Hasabara! Oh my gosh, this badass woman. She is a lady of the battlefield, and my gosh, she is so awesome. She was a unit that I think was a perfect way to utilize a mounted healer. Have a unit that is capable of being able to have high movement, but also be able to deal a lot of damage, while also having something that they can do every single turn. In this game, when your unit's turn comes around, I have found that it is extremely vital to make sure that every unit has something to do every turn. Hasabara can do that for you. So, using this staff that just has so many built-in skills on it, and it just has so much power, like 141, I mean, come on. Her regular attack deals more than what cleave and almost how much pushback does. That's insane. I like the Be Brave skill. Just because it can grant HP to multiple units if she's around them. You can also kind of set up a healing turn for Hasabara. But this skill is just made of gold. I mean, this was one of the reasons that I got Erador into the front lines a lot more easily. This is a great supporting skill, and due to the factor that she can gain additional TP because of this trekking for TP skill, if you use her entire movement, or you have the movement bangle on her, you can get more easy access to extra TP, which means that she can use her weapon skill much more often, which means she can yeet units around like crazy, while also being able to be a very efficient dual striker. And that was where I was going to go next with her. Being a follow-up attacker is her job. I think that this is where she excels. Because her weapon has so much built-in power on it, you can use it while, and have another unit follow up with her, but if you have a high-power attack weapon with her being the follow-up attacker, she does a lot of damage on follow-ups. It's definitely not something that Serenella can do, but that's because he has Pursuit Stance. He already deals more damage when he's follow-up attacking. But Hasabara is just an all-around very solid unit. Fantastic. I love her. Alright, next up is Narve. Now, Narve has really stood out to me from the very beginning. Having access to all the different magical elements of fire, lightning, ice, and wind is so cool. I really like how Narve, I mean, first of all, in terms of his personality, he's so funny, he always gives you a laugh, and at the same time, he always wishes to help people. It's honestly super wholesome and adorable. and that he wants to follow in his grandfather's footsteps. And I think that's very wholesome. The fact that he can heal is very good, as well, you know, just because it helps in a pinch. Unfortunately, I seem to have had a very similar thing with Corinthian that I did with Narve. Because Frederica and Izana are capable of just dealing so much damage, it kind of made Narve, again, take a back seat. Because of the factor that Izana already has access to 2 of these magic forms, and she just deals more damage than him outright. So, in terms of that, because, like, let's just say, for example, Spark has 233 power, this one has 261, so you're already dealing more damage with Izana, regardless. But, it's not much of a matter of that, as much as it is this, what I'm gonna get into next. Narve, having the ability to cast all elements of magic is very good. However, there's not a whole lot of units in this game besides mages and archers, and an occasional boss, like Thalos or Erica, that were weak to certain elements. And there's very few classes that have weaknesses to certain magic types. So in that regard, even though he might not be able to exploit, he just can't exploit a lot of units' weaknesses, and if he can, there's other units that are just capable of dealing more damage for those weak points. But I do like his ability to pierce defenses, but once again, Izana has pierced defenses too. So it's like, in general, I like this kid. I like this kid. He is awesome, and I adore him. It's just the factor that I think that he is a good unit, but in my opinion, I haven't deployed him very much because there were just units that were capable of dealing more. Ian's. Okay, so Ian's rating, I would really like to say is really, really nice. I think that in terms of the fact that Ian's has not joined me for a whole lot of battles, it's really because there's only certain types of battlefields that he's good on. The ladder building mechanic and also the spring trap skill are really good. In certain situations, Ian's has been one of the most vital units to get me around. The factor that Ian's could build bridges on build ladders on Whiteholm Bridge to allow my units to go up there to attack the archers, to get me through the mines quicker, to get to those explosives that were going to go off. There have been certain places where Ian's has been absolutely super useful. His combat isn't great, but he has these skills like Constricting Net to be able to allow a unit to be really, really stalled in terms of their turn. That allows me to do so much more efficient work before that unit hits. And Slumber Strike is pretty good too. Having the ability to cause sleep status is really good when he doesn't have anything else to do. Spring Trap I have utilized multiple times just because you can kind of lure an enemy into wanting to get like a back attack, because if they see it, they might go for it. So being able to do that and then spring their trap to waste their turn is very good. Not a whole lot for me to say about him, but I do like Ian's quite a lot. Maxwell. Now, in general, we all know how I feel about Maxwell. You know, I literally cried after the scene occurred that, you know, he had fallen into the Norzelia River, and I feared that he was not of this world anymore. And turns out, on this route, I actually managed to have the conviction levels to be able to have recruited him. So in terms of his story, I love him. You know, the factor that he wants to, after so long of being hurt and almost on the brink of losing his life, he was still willing to come back to House Wolfort to see his mission through, and our mission through too. And just because it's super wholesome, because he's a father figure to Roland, you know, and he became kind of like not just his mentor, but he became Roland's inspiration, which is super amazing. In terms of his utility, I really, really like him. Stats are well balanced. I like how every single skill has a purpose. You want to deal extra damage, use triple thrust. You want to get somewhere fast, use run through. You want to have access to range because some of these units, like the mercenary, the elite swordsmen, have that physical counter, and you don't want to deal with that. You can use lance hurl. And traverse is really good. It's like a mini moon jump from Milo. It's not as good as moon jump is, but it's like a mini moon jump. Very, very efficient. I'm sad that I couldn't get his main weapon upgraded because his weapon needs silver in order to upgrade, and I unfortunately don't have any more in Archibald's shop. But in general, he has been just an all-around good unit. He's always got something that he can do in a turn because, especially with his 2 birds, 1 stone to grant him an additional TP if he ever attacks 2 units at the same time, is very good. Alright, next up, oh my gosh, Archibald, instant 10 out of 10. I don't even care. What a wonderful unit. This man absolutely deserves to have this Bow of Serenity 3. My gosh, is he good. I found a really good use for him throughout my time later in the game using him after I got the Obsidian Anklet. I really thought that this was going to be good on him because there's so many skills that he doesn't really use commonly, because why would you not like to use a range 5 bow because he deals and he's dealing greater damage the farther that the enemy is anyway. It's super freaking efficient. Then you get extra range off second sight, so good. In general, he can stay off the battlefield without much fear that he's going to be attacked by a lot of units, but still is able to get dual strikes happening with other units that are on the front because he's attacking them so far away. Enemies don't commonly go for him, which is so good. An inescapable arrow, don't even get me started. This is amazing. He just freaking snipes a unit from like, it's literally just like the question, hey Archibald, what's your bow range? The map. His range is insane with this skill. I mean, 12 range, that's higher than Decimal is able to hit. And also, I just really find elderly people to be so incredible. They're amazing. And I can't tell you how many elderly people that I've talked to in my life for advice and wisdom and stories and laughs, you name it. And for him to have that, that very elderly feel. He was also a person that helped Lady Orlea with the Rosellan escape. He's just a man of honor. I mean, he's just amazing. I mean, just thank you, Archibald, for everything you've done for me and for this realm and this region of Roselia. You are amazing. Keep up the amazing work. Flanagan. Okay, so Flanagan, I wish I had more good things to say about him. I'm gonna be completely honest with you right now. Out of most of the units here, he is one of my least favorites. I know. I used him in Thalos and Erica's fight, and he survived for so long, drew so much enemy attention so I could focus on taking out Thalos' reinforcements and everything like that. However, I struggled to see the use of him. I'm sure that there's many other people who have used Flanagan that have found many more purposes for him, and I need to discover that for myself, because I feel like that based off of how I've used him, maybe I've used him in a really crap way. I don't know. But Flanagan having Ironclad is very good, just because he's basically the opposite of Erador, where if enemies attack him from the front, then he takes severely less damage. But Erador having Steelback, enemies are more likely going to go for back attacks if they can. They wouldn't attack you at the front unless they absolutely had to. So Steelback is more useful because it comes up more often. And to be honest with you, I was expecting his physical strength to be higher, to be completely fair. I think that his strength, I would have liked his strength to be much more buffed. He actually doesn't deal nearly as much damage as what I was expecting him to do. Shielding Stance is a really good skill. I mean, I've used it with Serenella in Maxwells fight to protect Frederica, and it ended up working like a charm. But for him to have lower movement and he flies, it's very difficult for him to be around other units that he's trying to protect. And you even combine that with Fortify to raise your defense but lower your movement. Again, like I was saying with Erador earlier on, I want a tank to be able to be a unit that is capable of being able to stay on the front lines, and he is not always able to do that because of the fact that if you want to use this skill to raise his defense, okay, that's great, but he's going to be falling behind. So in that regard, it wasn't as efficient. I think that when Flanagan excels, it's when he can use Shield Bash. This is definitely the best skill that he has, in my humble opinion, because of the factor that it creates a little bit of damage as well as potential dual strikes, along with a very high chance to infuriate the enemy. Because that makes it so that Flanagan becomes a much more efficient tank for you. But I mean, I like his skill array, I really do, but in general, I think that Erador brings the physical tank across better than what he does. So my rating for him isn't exactly going to be high, but it's not going to be super low either, because I have used him in quite a few battles and he has been very efficient. Lionel. Oh my gosh, where do I start with Lionel? So, Lionel, okay, this is a unit that literally surprised me. I thought that this was going to be a meme unit. I thought at the very beginning, I promise you this, I thought this unit was going to be a complete meme. I thought that this unit that Lionel was only going to be a unit that was going to be like, oh, I found treasure, so I get extra money off of them, which means that it's extremely efficient in mock battles because you can just get free money. But in chapter 10, I believe it was the first time that I ever decided to say, you know what, let's just try Lionel. I haven't even used him in battle yet. Let's just see what happens. You know, maybe he'll be useful. I realized that when units are in Fury mode, Lionel can infuriate mages to prevent them from casting. Because infuriating doesn't just mean that they aggro towards Lionel, it just means it does mean that they aggro towards the unit that infuriated them, but at the same time, they can't use any of their arts either. None of their abilities can be used. So if that's the case, Lionel having such an extended range of 4, in addition to that, you know, you can shut down mages, healers, you know, so many different types of units that are going to utilize their skills all the time. If you can lock them down, it's even better. Now, Inciting Whispers, I only got like 1 successful attempt off with Lionel. I mean, Milo has the power of just alluring amounts of beauty, but Lionel, what? What is he trying to tempt them with? Money? Like, I'm like, I will tempt you with the power of finances. Here's like, oh, it's like, I can imagine like an enemy like dropping some change on the ground and just being like, oh yeah, you want this quarter? Here you go. And he's like, now work for me. And I'm like, who, really? They're gonna work for you, Lionel, even though you just gave them a quarter? Like, wow. But like, at the same time, like, and Brute Force, total meme skill. You know, if you can get this off, it's a really, really good one. Don't get me wrong. I like skills that hit like a freight train, but the only problem is his accuracy with it is terrible. So, it's hard to pull off. But another skill that I think is good is Charm. Being able to lower their defenses to allow other units to come in and then allow him to dual strike with them is good. And so, I think that in general, what I thought Lionel was in the beginning was just that he wasn't going to be very useful in combat, but really what he is a very annoying unit for the enemies to take on, as well as being a very big HP wall. You know, just being able to have 350 health when most other units don't even have, like, don't have even near that. Lionel just becomes a unit that just takes enemy aggro away from your squishier units. So, Lionel, you are amazing. Keep being Lionel. Okay, Decimal. So we're actually getting pretty close here, I think, to the end. Yep, Decimal is the last unit for us to go over. So Decimal is what I like to consider to be a unit that's very good in certain circumstances. I'm gonna say that when he attacks with this with his main primary weapon, he's good. And I like the ability that he's immune to all status ailments. But sometimes due to this charged TP skill, because he doesn't gain TP naturally thanks to this skill here, but if he charges, he gains the TP when not moving or using commands. So he literally cannot do anything. You cannot move with him, you cannot attack with him, you cannot do anything. You can't heal him, you cannot do anything if you want that TP back. Implying the idea that most of the time, you only get the ability to attack with him every other turn. Which, bear in mind, every other turn, you know, to be able to attack 1 to 10 range with all of his other skills, they're all good. It's just the factor that Decimal in general, I find it very difficult to, like, he's good at dealing splash damage to units. I mean, I think he was actually one of the MVPs of the fight against Lila, because I think when I decreased her movement with target HP 4, it actually might have prevented the unit that was behind Serenella from being put through stop because her movement was lower. And I think that actually really saved me in that battle against Lila. However, only being able to potentially attack every other turn isn't exactly great. And the instant death skill with HP 5, with the chance to instantly kill enemies, is good, but the chances of that happening are like roughly 10%, which is not reliable. So, in general, I like this unit, but let's just say that he was trying to take out, like, there was an enemy that, and Decimal was up, and there was a unit that I absolutely had to finish off, and he was so far away from the enemy that he couldn't attack with his primary weapon, that he had to use his target skills. Well, let's just say the enemy had 71 health. Well, 71 isn't divisible by 3, 4, or 5. It's one of those numbers that cannot be divisible by any of those numbers. And so, if that's the case, and that enemy has 71 health, yes, I know that's extremely, you know, rare for that thing to, that specific health thing to be a thing. But, if he can't literally finish off the unit because they don't have an HP number that's divisible by a certain amount, he can't be the one to finish off that enemy, unless he's in range with his primary weapon and he can deal enough damage with that. However, I think that in general, Decimal has been a good unit during the battle that I did deploy him for. I obviously haven't known him for very long. I mean, he only got deployed to my army just before Lila's fight. So that's a big reason why I feel like that maybe my opinions of Decimal are a little bit lighter, because I haven't gotten the chance to use him a lot. But in general, that is my opinion about every single one of these units. I think that in general, everyone in this game is so creatively built, and all of them have their merits, all of them have their ups, all of them have their downs, but I will say that each of these units is so beautifully executed. They all have their roles to play, and I've been happy to showcase them at least in one battle each. And some of them every battle, you know, and some of them an occasional battle. So, you know, those are just my inputs on everybody, and I just wanted to kind of bring that across because I felt like, you know what, we're only a few mere steps away from this final chapter battle, so we have to see what lies ahead for that. But before that, I wanted to say a huge thank you to all these units that have been super amazing in my journey. And it's been a great ride with all of you. I mean, I know that it's not over, but, you know, I won't get that chance to say these words to these units probably after this last fight is over, so I wanted to give them all that little stage to be on. So this was Skymer, and I hope that you all have a fantastic day. Bye, guys!